Well, we check back in first with Professor Khaled Fahmy. He is chair of the history department at American University in Cairo. We last spoke last week. Khaled, welcome back to GRITtv. I understand you've been out in the streets today. What are you seeing?
Well, I first went to Tahrir Square, as I do every day. I spent a couple of hours there, and then I had some errands to run in the city. So Tahrir Square was definitely much smaller in terms of the size of the congregation and the gathering there than it was yesterday. The mood was still very festive. It was very confident. There's a carnivalesque feeling. There was a corner, for example, of young kids between 5 and 10 drawing and being helped in doing so by art teachers. Lots of music, lots of dancing, lots of shouting, of course, but it's definitely much more relaxed than the case than it was yesterday.
And what about outside the square itself, elsewhere in the city?
Yeah, there were two interesting developments outside the square itself. One was only 300 meters to the south of the square is the Parliament building, and there the demonstrators have blocked the street. They have blocked the entrance to the Parliament. Across the street from Parliament is the Cabinet. They have also blocked the entrance there, which prompted the Prime Minister to hold his meetings in another location, the Ministry of Aviation, way out in the north of the city. So that center of the city is completely now blocked. The administrative headquarters of the cabinet, the government, the administrative side of the government has basically been taken over by the demonstrators. And the parliament, which has been suspended, the parliament is not in session now, but obviously, symbolically speaking, to take over, not the building, they haven't stormed into the building, but they are blocking that main street, which is flanked, as I've been trying to describe, on the one hand by parliament, on the other hand by the Council of Ministers, or the cabinet. So that street has completely been blocked. But then, driving through the city, I saw a number of demonstrations that were much smaller in size, maybe tens, maybe hundreds of people in front of the locations that I've seen were in front of the Cairo Governorate and then in front of the Red Crescent a hospital near Ramses Square, and then lastly in front of the Cairo Electricity Company. And in these three locations, people, I think employees within these agencies or these companies or these institutions are asking for specific localized demands, and mostly from the slogans and the banners that I could see, they were demands about raises in pay, about leave policies, about corrupt administrators or supervisors. But then soon I could hear the slogans from Tahrir Square being borrowed and being repeated, and most significantly, Irhal, which means you leave, which of course has been said about Mubarak, but I couldn't really tell for sure whether that was used in these locations to refer to Mubarak, in other words, to Mubarak or to someone else, a director, or somebody within that institution.
How are those protests, some of them it sounds like labor-driven, labor-focused, different from similar protests in the past?
That is definitely the case. That is, I think, what one can see happening. So far, this revolution has been a revolution about political demands. This was not a revolution of the poor or the hungry. This is not a revolution asking for or complaining against unemployment or poverty. It was mostly about police brutality. It's about lack of freedoms. It's about the corrupt political system. They're asking for people to be tried and put on trial and so on and so forth for the past 2 weeks. Now, what we're seeing is people then this revolution spilling over to the wave of labor unrest that Egypt has been witnessing for the past 2 years. Because for 2 years, Egypt in major industrial centers there has been serious cases of strikes and walkouts and and the like. And previously, the government was very keen on trying to appease the demonstrators. Of course, encircle them immediately with police cordons very, very tight, and trying to diffuse the tension by giving them some promises here and there. Today, what was noticeable was that the police was not there. So that's very significant, that it seems that the police are no longer capable of containing these spontaneously erupting demonstrations throughout the city, or maybe unwilling to do so, or maybe too tired. I think the police have been have all but collapsed.
So 2 questions for you, Khaled. One has to do with you as a historian, watching what's going on and hearing what's happening internationally, with pressure being brought to bear on the United States, but the United States maintaining this line about orderly transition and taking things slow, and its support apparently for Omar Suleiman. As a historian, how do you assess the schedule that change is on in Egypt? What's your instinct about it? And then finally, tell us what the plans are for this coming week in terms of demonstrations.
I think the schedule has, in terms of the schedule, in terms of momentum, there is huge momentum being built by the revolution from day to day. New ideas, new locations, new numbers, new demands. The government has been very, very slow. The regime is very, very tightly knit. It's very difficult to dislodge it. It will take a lot more effort. But the momentum is for the revolution, and time, in my assessment, is on its side. Against it is a very staunch determination by the regime to stay in power, assisted in doing so by Israel, assisted in doing so by many conservative regimes, mostly, as the New York Times today was saying, Jordan, the Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, assisted, of course, by the army and assisted by the U.S. So the question is whether the Egyptian people will succeed in against all of these very strong opponents to democracy in the region, who are determined to different degrees to maintaining the status quo. In terms of the steps ahead, there are calls now for a 20 million strong demonstration on Friday throughout Egypt, and within Cairo, SMSs are being sent to designate specific locations, not only in Tahrir but throughout the city. So I think the momentum is on, and I think we're going to witness even larger groups on Friday.
All right, Khaled Fahmy, thank you so very much for joining us, and we will stay in touch with you. New information there about demonstrations planned for this Friday, 20 million. We will keep in touch. Thanks so much. We'll put more information at our website.